All right, hey folks, my name is Rob Satcham, Feedback Grants, we do websites, marketing for small business. I'm here with Dylan Hendrickson, Screech, the based accountant, and he does accounting, bookkeeping, and taxes, particularly for marketing, tech, entrepreneurs, and whatnot. I'm going to shut up here. We're going to tell his story. He is pretty unique. One of the more he's been pushing his business in a really good way, started young, and I'm just going to shut up here. Dylan, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? I'm going to show off your Twitter handle a little bit here and your sites and stuff, but introduce yourself and let us understand a little bit about who you are and what you're doing.
Right on. Yeah. So my name's Dylan Hendrickson. A ton of people in Utah call me Screech. That's Screech-based accountant comes from. So I am one of two owners of Stacks, where we do fractional CFO stuff, accounting, bookkeeping, tax planning, tax returns, all the good stuff. I'm the founder of Sledge Accounting. That was about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. About 2 years ago. November 2021 is when we started that. And then we just barely merged with Stacks here just about a week or two ago.
Yeah. And I'm talking
It's
to
been
you
awesome.
because you called me about 2 years ago or whatnot. And just so you guys know, when it comes to entrepreneurship, I've started two businesses from nothing. And the visual I always give people is, Tom Hanks on the movie Castaway when he's off on the deserted island and he's trying to make fire. He's got this stick of wood and he's just rubbing it, trying to make sparks go. That's the way I felt two times. And Feedback Wrench is back in 2015. I had an accounting firm before that. And since then, I help a ton of accountants. But Dylan had reached out to me because he had bumped into my stuff on YouTube and did lots of talking and consulting, kind of worked with some website stuff and whatnot. But walk us through, do a quick survey in, over 3-4 minutes here. Give us a survey of your situation, because I see number 33 up there. And when you
Yeah.
contacted me, you were in a unique situation. A lot of times I get young folks that are like, hey, look, I'm thinking of starting a business. I'm like, yeah. We'll see. We'll see how you can execute and actually get it done. And then there's some folks that have been around, they've been doing accounting jobs for like the last 25 years. And they're like, well, I think I want to do my own business. And here you call
Sure.
me. And you're out there. Frame up where you were at. What were you doing? Just give us a quick survey because I think it was freaking awesome, man.
Yeah. So for context, my first accounting job ever was 2019 at a really, really awesome firm called Easier Accounting. I love the owners there. And it was tough because I was in school, I was playing football, I was working, I was coaching basketball, and it was just insane. So eventually my role there got reduced because I didn't have enough time to do a ton of accounting
Hold on,
stuff.
I got to interrupt. Hold on. You're going to school full time. You're playing. What is it? D2. You're playing college football. You have a
Yep.
job, or you're coaching
Yep.
basketball, and
Yep.
you're freaking. So your activity level's a little bit higher than the average schlup, like just chilling out after practice and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
it,
dude,
it, it
that's
was
no
insane.
joke.
And yeah, it was insane. And it's honestly not much different right now. But back then in my accounting job, what I would do as I was bookkeeping is, dude, I would listen to your videos. Like I would be bookkeeping in Zero and I would have your videos over there. What's the difference between an S Corp and an LLC? Hey, there's a different accounting route out there where you can start your own thing, get stuff on retainer. And the company that I was working at was doing that too. Like they were kind of ahead of the curve as far as like a retainer, we're going to do everything. And I was like, okay, in my accounting classes, all they talk about is public accounting, big four accounting. But then on YouTube, watching your stuff and where I'm working, I'm seeing this totally different side of it. And I was like, okay, I think there's something here. So I kept watching your stuff. Um, like I said, November 2021, I'd gotten my bachelor's degree that spring, that May of 2021, and then November 2021, I filed my LLC and I got my first bookkeeping client. And I had two or three bookkeeping clients through that spring of 2021, which is or 2022, excuse me. And I was in my master's degree at that point. So about halfway through my master's degree is when I started um, getting the bookkeeping clients and whatnot. Did a tax internship at a tax firm, and that's where I really realized, like, oh my gosh, like there is so many owners out there that go all year long without knowing how much they make, what their profit levels are, just doing what I call bank balance accounting. They just check their bank account, and if the number's up, then they're good, and if the number's
Yep.
down, they're not good.
Yep.
So then it was like, okay, there's definitely plenty of a need, right? So we kind of just kept going down that rabbit hole.
So
And
hold
then
on.
that
How
so
old are
that
you at this
next
point? How old are you at this point, if you mind me asking?
uh, I would have been so spring of 2022. I would have turned 23 that March.
Dude, for those of us listening, where were you at 23? I mean, when I think back of where I was at 23, dude, that is so awesome that you were being a learn-it-all, that you were executing. The fact that you went out and got 2 to 3 clients already. I know dudes that have been trying to do their business for so long, dreaming about this stuff, and here you are at 22, 23, and you're freaking getting it done. Like, that is, do you mind me, like, I want to keep asking you questions, but I want to sit here for a
Yeah.
second. Okay, the first 2 clients, how the heck did that happen? Like,
Okay, so the first one is actually a friend of mine that I've known since like seventh grade.
mhm.
His name's Ryan. He owns a company called Pristine Landscaping. Um, and he basically just gave me a shot. He was like, "Yeah, we don't have any bookkeeping. It's kind of crazy, but if you want to help us do it, like, yeah, I'm down to help you out." And that's the thing is people are like, "Oh, I got to find someone." It's like you already have a huge lead list. It's in your contacts in your phone
Mhm.
and your socials. Like that's where you start, and that's
How
where I
did you
started. I
approach
knew
him?
he.
Like, are you tight enough
I
that
mean,
you
he
could
was.
just go ask him?
Yeah, he's a good friend. I mean, like seventh grade through like ninth grade, we were really, really close. Kind of fell off in high school and college a little bit, but still good enough. It's one of those friendships where it's like you could go a few years without seeing each other, then you see
Mhm.
each other and you're best friends. It's one of
Yep.
those type of
Yep.
things.
That's
And
cool.
he's doing really good. And I was looking up to him too because he kind of went the route of no college, sweaty startup, Nick Huber type
Mhm.
route with, the landscaping business. He owns a Christmas lighting business as well and some other stuff. So started with him, and he was a chill enough client that I could figure the kinks. Like I could get through the kinks of continuing to learn the software. And there's so much stuff in any occupation, not just accounting, where it's like you don't know the problems you'll run into until you start and
Yep.
run into. And I think that's what turns a ton of people off to entrepreneurship is the uncertainty.
Especially
But that's
accountants.
it's
Like,
part of it. Yeah.
so I just want to frame this up because I talked to scores of accountants a week, and they're all like they're one of 3 buckets. Is either, just generally speaking, you didn't get into sales. Like most accountants got into accounting because they're not hardwired to be like, I know what I want to do. I'm going to go out and prospect, face rejection, and like fire, ready, aim, rather than like they're so geared to ready, aim, fire. And that idea, that sentence you just said there, that on the job training or actually learning while you're doing it is fantastic. And if you think about it from your buddy's perspective, like you said he didn't have anything. So it's like on one side of the spectrum, he's doing it himself and it's crap. And then the other side of the spectrum is maybe he goes and hires KPMG for $1 million to do it. Well, somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle is like, Dylan's probably good at this. He hasn't done it a lot, but let's give him a shot. Like if accountants take that mindset to just go try it, freaking
Yeah.
it jumpstarts
And
your business.
super transparently too, like I was not charging him a lot.
Yeah.
But being in college, that extra couple $100 a month was like hell yeah. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Plus that
And
tuition
then
is
my
probably better than
big
your master's degree.
yeah, and then the big light bulb went off when, like I said, that spring of 2022, I was doing a tax internship. So I was doing tax returns, S corp partnerships, individual all day, every day. And a lot of that was from scratch. So there was no bookkeeping. So I would take their bank statements, download it, put it in Excel, pivot table, whip up their tax return. And I came into a situation where I sold a similar engagement for my own thing, like that June or July, right after I got my master's degree. And he paid me $600 to do his one tax return, from scratch, do the pivot table thing. It took me a few hours, and I was like, okay, this took me like 2 or 3 hours to whip this up, and I made $600. I mean, how many hours would I have had to have worked to make that $600 at a different place? And that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the first moment where it was like, okay, never going back. I already had a feeling this is what I wanted to do in the road I want to go down, but that was where I was like, I am really not going back.
That's cool.
So
That's
that
cool.
was, and
So
he's still a good friend client.
tax internship though. So you've done 2 things that I advocate a lot. So number one, you just broke some eggs and figured it out, found someone to do it for cheap. I started both Nuance Financial. Like I went to my buddy Nick and we found a couple people who were like, dude, Dylan Fredrickson Masonry. We're like, we'll do it for super cheap. Like we way underpriced it. And like, if you like it, then just give us a review. When I started Feedback Wrench, I went in Dylan again and helped a whole bunch of starter guys and just said, look, pay me what you think it's worth. I'll get you some results. This is what I'm doing, and kind of move on from there. But the second thing you said, that internship. So how did you get a tax internship? What was that like? And what'd you learn? Because I bet you were like going through tax returns and you're like, oh man, there's juice in these oranges. Like I bet did you see,
Yeah.
like, what'd you learn during that? What was it like? How'd you
Yeah.
get it? And what'd you learn?
So I worked at a place called the Tax Company, and Jamie Mitchell's the founding partner there, and she's an EA enrolled agent. She's been doing that for like 30 years, and she specializes in IRS, uh, tax court type stuff. Like, and she is a brilliant accountant. And I was lucky that my grandmother had actually did radio ads for her when she first started in the 90s.
Oh, cool.
So I kind of had a little in there, did my stuff there, and she was just brilliant. Learned so much. But I also learned that I don't love doing the tax returns. I do not love doing the accounting fulfillment. I love talking about it. I love getting on a sales call with, a 20-year-old entrepreneur that just had their first 20, 30K month and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do, blah, 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 and being able to walk them through it. I love that part. But really, everything goes back to the social proof that you have that you can do what you promise you're going to do. And for me, having strategic partners in place. Like the only reason I felt good about trying to do my own stuff is because I was still in school. I played football at the same school for 6 years, so I had a really good relationship with all the accounting professors. So if I ever came across something that was really, really tough that I didn't know what to do, I just walked into their office and was like, hey, can you help me figure this out? Like, this is a
Dude,
little bit my competency, right?
I legit think that
And
I think college should be that. College should be that. Like, I bet you learned way more bumping into the real life problem, bringing it to them. Like, I always think, and I'm sorry, I'm a little critical of college, but in that,
no,
how
you're
many
good. I
how
am
many
too.
papers get written that are just pointless? Right? What they should do is go make something for a business and then get that graded, get paid for it, do it for free. If you're gonna be in an accounting, go work in an accounting firm, find problems, use your professors to solve those problems. Like that is so cool that you did that, man. Like
Yeah.
freaking
And they're awesome.
awesome.
I still have a good relationship with them. And I think as our firm continues to grow, because I don't think my accounting firm is the thing that's going to make me 100 millionaire, but I do think that it's the cash flow play to put me in those positions from the cash flow from the accounting business, if that makes sense. So
Oh,
it
for
is like
sure.
our long-term play over the next 10, 20 years at least. And I do think that some of those university relationships will definitely act as a hiring funnel as well
Oh,
someday.
for sure. For sure.
So it's
That's cool.
definitely, yeah, the connections with the professors is the only thing that makes the university worth it. And depending on your degree, um, some things you need to go to college for. But overall,
Yeah.
it was way more about making those relationships and having those strategic partnerships. And that's what allowed me to start raising my rates, right? Is
Yeah.
because, okay, now I have this connection with this tax firm that does really, really good work on the tax side. Now, instead of just offering bookkeeping, I can include their tax return in my retainer.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of how it developed. I know we're kind of getting in the weeds, but that's how the retainer price has been able to go up and we've been able to continue to add value. Is
Yeah.
okay, I got this firm that can do the tax returns. Okay, now I got another CPA firm that specializes in payroll. Now I can offer payroll, right?
Yep.
And
That's
now we're
cool.
totally full suite. We handle everything. So
That's cool. That's
couldn't do it
cool.
without having some strategic partnerships in place for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, some of the things now when I had talked to you is kind of like you're getting ready for graduation, you were going to do a little bit more dive in and pivot. And now here you are in freaking Twitter. You're like my only accountant that is on like Twitter universe and stuff. Help us understand for those that don't understand this. Maybe there's some accountants, maybe there's some other folks that are like, you do what? You're where? And you got stacks and a partnership and you're like, so talk to us about kind of your, the Twitter finance universe. Talk to us about you've got some really great strategic partnerships, what that's been like, and then you've been creating content. Just talk to me about where you're pointed at right now because you're taking a strategic decision, right? You've headed in a direction. Tell us what that direction is, and we'll just hear more.
Absolutely. So most of my clients come from Twitter or the coaching program that I'm in. My partner that I found came from Twitter. A handful of the strategic partners we use all came from Twitter. And it doesn't have to be Twitter. It can be any of them, but you need to be existing on the internet. That's the owner of the coaching program, and he's a funny guy, great guy. But he always talks like you have to exert shit out into the world. Like people have to know that you exist. And a lot of accountants don't want to do that. And that's okay because there is demand. Like if you just want to crank out individual tax returns, you can set up shop somewhere and you'll get business and you'll be fine. But that's not the route I wanted to take. I wanted to be a premium service. I have on my whiteboard right there the Ferrari of accounting firms. That's like the long-term vision. So we want to be a premium service working with enjoyable clients at a higher price, because then we can provide better service, we can hire better people, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is to get those B2B clients, those business retainer clients, there's only a certain percentage of your target market that is going to be ready to buy right now. Maybe 1% of them, right? So the whole purpose with content and being on Twitter and all that stuff is to get them to associate your name with that service.
Yep.
And I'm starting to kind of get to that point, me and my partner Alex, where you think of, oh, dang, I just made a bunch of money for the first time. I need an accountant. Where, what do I do? Oh, Screech-based accountant. That's who I go to. Or Alex. Alex is great. All these other guys on Twitter use Screech and Alex. Now that I just made $30K, I'm going to book a call with Screech and Alex. So the posting consistently, you're not going to get a sale every single time you post. And you shouldn't be pitching a call or pitching a sale every time you post. It's way more just them seeing you consistently. Like you should be in front of their face consistently. So when they do make the decision that they need an accountant, you're the person that they call.
So now, okay, so you guys talk to me about, I got a bunch of questions. You've been doing content and everybody knows this content thing, right? They know about it. Oh yeah, I should make content, right? But I would affirm everything you just said. I always tell people back in old school sales day, you got to get enough front end activity. Like the whole thing is your funnel depends on, you have to present the opportunity to people to like actually want to take a step with you. And you're right, timing will eventually be there, right? They're buying accounting services, either from themselves or from somebody else. You got to be there in the right time.
It's what happened with me and you. It's exactly what happened with me. I watched your stuff forever. I say, okay, this dude knows about accounting and now he makes websites for accountants. I got to the point where it was like, dang, my website sucks. I want to facelift it. Who's the guy? Dude, Rob's the guy. It's the same exact thing, right?
Yep. But so talk to me about this content you've been making. What are you learning with it? What's the hard part? What's the best part? Like for other accountants that are like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, help us understand what's it like to create it? How do you fit it into your life? What's the tyranny of content creation and what are you learning about it? And you've just help someone understand what's going on.
Truthfully, I would not consider myself a master or an expert or even very good at it yet. But the hardest part is the consistency and carving out some time. And that's something I'm starting to learn and get better too, is like the mental bandwidth it takes for you to sit down and make one video or write one good piece of content for Twitter is the same amount of energy and bandwidth it would take for you to sit down and make 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think instead of trying to just do a little bit every day, you'd be better to batch off a few hours and just knock a bunch of it out. I think agree. Is typically better, or even twice a week, like 2 hours on Wednesday, 2 hours on Saturday, that type of thing. And I think the thing that holds people back too is they think that it has to be video. They think that it has to be a writer. Like you can lean into your natural abilities. Like I tend to lean towards writing tweets. I'm getting better at the video, but I mean, it can even just be audio. You can do audio notes on Twitter. Yeah. Like it can be whatever medium you want it to be, but I think some people are like, oh, I don't want to get on camera. And the funny the funny thing that I tell myself when I don't feel like doing it is like, oh, like do you just hate money? Like you just want to be poor forever? And it's like, okay, no, I don't do that, so I'm going to make the video.
You know what, though? That's a good mindset because I tell people it's true that I don't think people understand how much rejection and how much prospecting and how much front-end activity it takes to have a successful business. Like I could see somebody float by and see what I've done, and they don't know the late nights. They don't know how much, they don't have a clue what the first 2 years of each spot was like, both nuance and here. They have no idea how many people I bumped into, asked, hey, you got a small business? Do you have a good tax accountant that helps you with proactive tax planning and bookkeeping? I'd love to check out your tax return. No. You feel, like how many no's I faced, how much energy it takes. I think there's something about that batching too. I would affirm that. I think that it's a mental mind space that you have to be in to create that's so different than production. Sales and marketing somewhere in between, but to teach on and create content, yeah, it definitely, John Maxwell, he says every day he reads, every day he writes, every day he files. And so I started doing that probably 20 years ago, back in probably 2002. I listened to this John Maxwell. And the whole idea is like, you need to be reading something to grow yourself a little bit. And then you got to write. If you don't write somewhere, you're not going to remember it, and then file it. So for you, I have enough content stored away in my Google Docs and in my ClickUp I could feel so much. I got to sit down and actually do it. Now, the other side is I'm constantly teaching, and I know the fundamentals, the 5 or 6 fundamentals. And this is one of the things I think every entrepreneur should do. There are 5 or 6 fundamentals that you should be able to break into a presentation every freaking time. One of them is the tax reduction. Do you have a proactive tax plan that's helping you get the most out of your S corp? That's helping you do retirement plans. That's helping you hire your kids. That's helping you make sure that you're using real estate investments and depreciation constantly. Like, that's a conversation. Then it's, are you wasting time screwing around doing your own books? You're going to do it wrong. You're not investing your time right. Like, you're obviously not worth very much then if you're doing it. Like, you got to up your set. Like, and then there's the, oh, by the way, you want your taxes done right or you want them done poorly? Like, so every business owner should have, your people are stuck here. I want to bring you to a there, and you have an approach that you have to all these things. You should be able to spit those out all the time. And it takes practice. And it's definitely that other side of the brain that,
Totally. And you get that, dude. The only way to get that is through the reps. The only way to get better at the sales calls is to take a freaking million sales calls. And the only way to get better on videos is to make a freaking million videos. And that's one thing Alex Hormozi said. I watched a ton of Alex Hormozi. I think he's a beast as far as business goes. And he said, hey, one video is probably not going to change your life, but 1,000 of them will.
Yep.
And a lot of it goes back to the social proof thing too, because it's like, hey, if you're a small business owner, if you're 24 years old, you just had a $40,000 month in your B2B agency, and you're like, oh crap, like this is getting serious. I need an accountant. Who do I pick? Okay, I found these 2 guys. I'm going to try and pick between them. And he goes to your site, and there's no tweets, there's no YouTube videos, there's no nothing. And then he goes to my site, and I have 20 YouTube videos talking about S Corp, talking about this, talking about this, talking about this. Then he goes to my Twitter, and there's 3,000 followers of all of his mutuals, and there's testimonials on there of all of his mutuals saying good things about me. I'm getting all of that business over that other person.
Oh yeah,
100%
Plus,
of the time.
Something that
people don't.
Business owners they have a very sophisticated BS meter, probably more than a regular. Like, we know if you're a business owner and you've actually made money, that means you understand what it takes to actually birth something into reality. And so when people come by and make these goofy claims, we can smell BS so quickly. And it's just, we have to. Like, we have to have an inherent ability to do that. So if you don't have proof that you're helping real businesses, if you don't have messaging that gives them a little bit, like, you don't have to explain everything, but if they're going to scratch the itch to do research, which every entrepreneur I've ever met does that, then when they get to your site, you better exactly those little YouTube videos that show, hey, just so you know, when it comes to tax planning, this isn't rocket science. But if you don't have somebody engaged that knows what they're doing in your bookkeeping, it's not going to work. Like, you're not going to be able to implement it. So here's what we do, right? If you don't, it's always that pique their curiosity, you can make their life better and solve their problem for what they're looking for. Then when they lean into that enlightenment stage to be like, wait a minute, are you full of crap? What's it like? What do you cost? Can I trust you? Will I like you? Then having that stuff, and you have that, and it's super fun to watch. So now, what programs, like when you're making videos right now, do you use like real tactical? Are there some little tactics you've found that have worked really well for you, or how do you actually do it?
Sure. So, should I spill the sauce for them? Should I let them know?
I think so.
So if it's on the computer, I just have a Logitech Brio 4K webcam, and I use OBS.
Yep.
And I use OBS for a third of the screen, and then I screen my second monitor. I have a Gamma doc. There's a really, really cool website called Gamma.app where you can make AI documents, and they look really, really good. So what I've been doing lately that I've seen a little bit of success with is just a really quick, surface level overview of some topic. And then I record on OBS of me going over that Gamma doc. So they can see me talking on screen, but then they can see the doc at the same time of me talking and going through it. So that's how cool. I do it on my computer. And then if I'm making like a selfie video on my phone or maybe a whiteboard video, then I'm just using CapCut, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. TikTok spies. Absolutely. That's cool. Open broadcast software is something you can use on Windows or you can use it on Mac and Linux. And then Ecamm Live, that's the program I'm using here. And the whole idea is, how do you share a screen? I think entrepreneurs, if business owners create content and they learn how to do a screen share, and if they learn how to use that Gamma app, I'm eager to check that out. Just really
Dude,
quick,
you will love that. You will
yeah,
love
I'm
that.
excited. I'm excited. But learning how to like put the fundamentals into some simple visuals and then speak to that, I don't think anything will help a business owner more than that. The other thing I just add is that I've had good luck and seen other people do good luck of do a little bit of DIY training on your videos. Create a YouTube video that shows somebody, what is the tax difference between an LLC and an S corp. I would even pick DIY to your location sectors, DIY to your niche sectors, like how to start an LLC in the state of Illinois, how to convert to an S corp in the state of Illinois, how to like extend your tax return. If you make those, then you could do a little commercial each time. Hey, just so you know, I'm going to show you how to extend your tax returns. It's kind of a pain. I'm going to screen share and show you everything, but just call me. I'll make this so much easier. Plus, I bet you're overpaying any taxes. Here's how you do it. Because people
for sure, and even like my most viewed video is one from like a year or two ago where I was showing how to do bookkeeping in Excel using pivot tables. Zero editing. I was on my MacBook. I wasn't even good at video yet, so I was talking like this. I was talking, and then you do this, and still trying to find my voice on camera and whatnot. Yeah, it's not like an astronomical amount of views. I'm still figuring YouTube out. But that has a ton of views, and I think that's the thing with accountants too. Is like our content doesn't need to be hyper edited.
No.
You know what I mean? People are there for the info more than the entertainment. Not to say you can't have a nice high quality video. I mean, my stuff is starting to get better. We have some service swaps with some editors and stuff, so we can do that. But honestly, it's shifting a little bit. Like people used to want the hyper edit videos. Now people want authentic stuff. Like if you're an accountant and you're like, I'm not sure, dude, get in front of a whiteboard and explain something on the whiteboard and post it. And if you do that forever, you will get views and you will get clients from that. 1,000,000%. You just will if you do it consistently. So don't feel like it has to be some crazy, super hyper edited thing. If you were going to spend some time, I would spend time on the thumbnail just so people click it. But the video itself doesn't need to be hyper edited.
I totally agree. It's funny. So I'm not going to act like I got it all figured out. I got about 28,400 subs. I get about 3.
Which is a ton. That is so much on YouTube.
Especially for my little hyper niche. I haven't even bridged out, but I'll even show just anybody who's watching here. Part of why I'm bringing this up is I wake up to a genuinely full calendar every week. Like I'm booked. We are growing so hard and fast. All I'm doing is making sure we're getting better before we get bigger. And what's interesting is I got a couple of how-to videos in here, but also what I'm doing is I'm teaching as though somebody's on the line with me. I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who are like, if you could just get them on the phone with me, by golly, I'll kill it. Then you ought to do a real authentic video that teaches somebody in the same manner that you do. Now, it is hard. I meet some salespeople who are really great at asking great questions, and it's hard to do that sometimes, but really good salespeople are great at framing the question within a presentation so that you could, I used to be able to at Best Buy sell, I'm not kidding, I could sell to a group of 15 people shopping for a laptop at once. And that's when I knew I'm like, okay, there's something here. And I think if you just...
And that's the thing too, is if you are bad at sales, then you should triple down on content. Because then you will have a lay down sale. You want people to have a parasocial relationship with you. You want people to feel like they know you and they're friends with you and you have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
Because if they get to that point, when they get on the call with you, they are there to buy. Yeah. If they've consumed 10 hours of your content, even 5 to 15 hours of your content and they book a call, they are buying. It's a lay down sale because they've already made the decision that you're the guy for them. And then you don't have to sell and you don't have to use those questions, and because that is a skill and it's hard, and that's something I'm really trying to get better at for like the prospects that come in cold, is asking some of those questions and trying to get them to sell themselves on the service. That's hard to do, but if you have a ton of content, it makes it so much easier because people sell themselves through your expertise and your content.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's probably a good pivot. I'm going to ask the question slow so you can really dive into this, but what are some of the biggest, just genuine, because I hate podcasters like we all act. I'll share a bunch of where I've failed too. What are some of the areas that you feel like you're struggling with, that you've struggled with, that you are wrestling through? You just did kind of a new partnership with somebody who's been a natural, arm link, where you guys have similar approaches and everything. And I think 1 + 1 is going to equal 20 there. I think you guys are going to have huge momentum. But for people listening that are thinking of this, like genuinely, what have been some of the biggest struggles that you could share?
I would say in 2021 and 2022 was incredibly lonely. It's incredibly lonely at first. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that because, I mean, in Utah, there's definitely parts of the country where there's online money communities. Tampa is a huge one. There's a ton of them in Tampa. But where I was at in St. George, Utah, I was playing college football still. Even my best friends, they're nowadays they're more on the entrepreneur wave and trying to do some great stuff. But at the time, like there was nobody that truly could even comprehend or understand what I was trying to build and do, outside of my fiance, because I told her about it all the time. But like family and friends, like nobody gets it. Like when you run into a problem, nobody gets it. And nobody's going to understand why you're going to stay up till 2 a.m. on a Saturday night when you're in college making a service agreement because you need to have something to send. You know what I mean? Like people just don't get that. So there's moments of like, you'll have a big win or you'll have a big loss, and it's like you want to share it with someone, but nobody even gets it. So it's not even worth sharing. So that's where the community aspect is really huge. And that's one of the huge reasons why I joined Client Ascension. It's a high ticket, it's a premium coaching program. But it is a top tier community, and just being like in a community with about 300 other people, with other business owners that have built legit stuff to 50K, 100K, 200K a month. That has been huge. So huge. And that's where I'm a business partner. So
I'd like to talk about that. So loneliness.
As soon as you have the money to invest in community or coaching, you should do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting for me. I had loneliness is definitely a thing. And so a lot of people don't think of this. You go to your normal job, you go in and you pretty much, unless your boss sucks and the organization's goofy, you know what's expected of you. And I don't think people understand. It's like we look at a blank canvas genuinely. And it's like, okay, I'm going to paint a ship. How am I going to paint this ship? And you make the ship painting, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this needs to morph into a silhouette of a ship, and I need an ocean. And you just keep, I think there's a great analogy where you set out to the market and you bring purple cubes to the market. And as you sell a couple purple cubes, it's like, oh, wait a minute. These need to be purple rectangle cubes, whatever that is, right? Or a rhombus, is that what it is? And and you're morphing. You got to stay true to your roots, and yet you're trying to respond to what you're learning as you're doing it. And so it's a cliche that says, you wear a lot of hats as an entrepreneur, but you really need to be ready you're going to have to fill in the gaps on so much like, hey, how are you going to bill people? Like functionally, how do you invoice? Okay, I invoice. Yeah. Well, what do I market as? Okay, is it subject to sales tax? I'm not really sure. Okay, that's just, let's say I got the sale. Then it's like, okay, now I need a website. Oh, I need to be on Google. Oh, I need to get more leads. Yeah. I need to create a video. What do I do? Should I buy Windows? Should I buy Mac? Like, people just go to work and they have no idea how many decisions have been made for them up to that point.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. A lot of it is when you're very first starting, you have to be minimally viably competent at so many different things. And that's why you just have to start. Because yes, it doesn't matter if you're the best accountant on the planet. If you can't have a landing page with a decent funnel to get someone to book a call, it doesn't matter. If you can't sell that person when they get on the call, it doesn't matter. Like, you have to be, like, you need to know how to make a little bit of content. You need to know how to use Zapier and do some automations. You need to know, like, there's a lot of little stuff you have to know. But that's the thing, is you take those couple of hours to learn that thing, and that skill is with you for a long time. That's the thing. Once you hit 10, 20, 30K a month, even if it burns down, you will get to that level much faster than you did the first time because you already have that stack of skills. It's just a lot of people are not comfortable with working for 6 months and having nothing happen.
Yep.
But that's what it takes. Like, you have to be willing to eat it for 6 months as you stack those skill sets to be able to make some money. And I really liked what you said too, going back to some of the struggles. I think where I definitely still struggle, and I think a ton of people out there wanting to start or who are just starting really struggle, is deciding which levers to pull. And I think a lot of them pull the wrong levers, especially when they're really, really first starting. It's okay, if I pull this lever over here, spending 5 hours trying to make my logo look nice, or if I spend 5 hours doing cold outreach in my Twitter DMs and cold email and Instagram, which is going to make you more money, right? And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, 9 out of 10 people, are going to do the logo because they think it's important. Which
And
at
then
some
there's the
point, like
subtle
sure, like
ones. But yeah, and then there's subtleties like should I do outreach on Twitter or should I make a video on Twitter? Should I make a video on Twitter or should I do the tweet? Should I go on YouTube? Like what you framed up there, yeah. And then there's even like it gets harder. Like you actually how do you choose from
it does.
good to good to good? There's three good things you should do. Which one should you do? How do you test? That's
Yeah, do
so
I
yeah.
invest in a new VSL for my website? Do I hire here? Do I upgrade this or do I upgrade that? Where do I put the money back into? It gets it gets harder for
How
sure, and
did
I've felt some of that. Even in the last 6 months, there was some money that I've spent that I was like, now that it's happened, looking back on it, it's like, okay, did that really make me more money?
yeah,
Not really,
that's hard.
you know. And that's where I'm trying to get better. And my mental frames is stepping back and zooming out and being like, okay, is this going to make me more money? Because
That's
that's the
good.
whole point of
That's
business.
good.
Is this going to make more money, and is this going to help me help people better?
That's good. I got a
You know?
question. I have a theorem and I have a perspective here. You were an athlete.
Yeah,
How did the grit, coachability, adaptability, you were a tight end, right? Are there
I was a
like
defensive end for most of the
defensive end? That's
years.
what it was. That's what it was. Um, do you feel like is there something there that you learned? I mean, how did your athletics and your ability to play on a football team play into your ability to execute in this environment?
Sure, I think it's a couple of things. Playing Division 1 football is a very difficult thing. Um, I don't think most humans on the outside understand what goes into that.
Nope.
Um, so first thing, I think it shifts your perspective of what's hard, right? Because like
That's good.
doing some of the stuff that I did, and I think you played as well, some of the stuff you did, like okay, sitting at my computer and clicking some keyboard, like it's not hard, you know. Like there's some challenges for sure, but it's like it shifts your perspective of hard. So that's one of them. I think the other great thing is it develops some delayed gratification stuff, which in people my age and younger than me, and even people a little older than me, is something that's very difficult for people. I played 6 seasons at Utah Tech. You know, you can see right there. Had a great
Mm-hmm.
time. Met so many awesome people. But it was very hard, especially those first 2 years. I mean, that first year, I was like bottom 10, worst kid on the team. Second year, still didn't play one defensive snap, right? And it's like you just keep going. And then that third year, I had a really awesome year. And those last few years, I had really fun, awesome years and got to play and do some cool stuff. But it doesn't happen overnight, right? Like I got there weighing 185 pounds. I left there weighing 240 pounds, like muscle, like, you know.
Yep.
But that stuff doesn't happen in 3 months or 12 months or even 24 months. It's
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes to get that end result, it's going to take multiple years. And sometimes that's where I'll have moments where I'm like, God, like I'm not where I want to be. Like we're not making enough. We don't have enough clients, this and that. But then it's like, okay, you just keep building the ship for 6 years the same way we did in football. Like year 6 is going to look crazy, and year 12 is going to look crazy. Like, so just the delayed gratification definitely was huge. And then my defensive line coach, he was his whole thing he taught the whole time was just relentless effort. It's all we talked about all day, every day was relentless effort, and finding that gear above where you're normally used to operating. And and that's one of the key traits for like the real killers in business and entrepreneurs is they're relentless.
Mm-hmm.
And he defines relentless. I actually think it's Tim Grover's definition, the guy that trained Michael Jordan and Kobe. But he says relentless means craving the end result so badly that the work becomes irrelevant.
Mm, I like that. I like that.
And so it's like, hey, sometimes it's going to take 2 a.m. nights. Sometimes it's going to take waking up at 4 or 5. I'm going to Mexico next week. It's going to take me busting out my MacBook and doing some stuff while I'm in Mexico, and that's okay.
Yep.
Um, And that's something I really love too. I know I'm just quoting a bunch of people, but
Oh, it's great.
that's where I've learned all the stuff. Alex Hormozy, I really like. He says he always, and that's okay. And it's like, yeah, a lot of this has been super hard, and sometimes you have to do stuff you don't want to, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dude, that's huge.
And just
I
come to terms with it. Like the thinking that it's supposed to be easy is what makes it harder.
ooh, God, that's good. I love that. So athletics helped shift your perspective of what was hard, force that delayed gratification when it gave you the perspective that it took 6 years for you to get good. First 2, 3 years you were trash. Then you got to play and have fun.
Yeah.
And it's like you're taking that
Mm-hmm.
perspective in your business. I love that relentless effort. Crave the end result so bad that the work just is irrelevant. You're just going to do it. And I really, it's funny that you say shift that first one, shift your perspective of what's hard. There are a lot of people that do a lot of hard things. I got recruited to go play at Northern Illinois University. I played for 1 year. I was drinking and partying and like, I had to come home and grow up. I quit like, cause I hated it. I have so much respect for people who get through these programs. Like people can blow off football players like, oh yeah, you're going to major in PE and then get done. It's like, they're, first off, they wash their clothes and stay alive as a human. Second of all, they have to execute academically. Third of all, go watch the Florida the thing on Netflix with the Florida Gators. Now neither of us played for the Florida
Yeah.
Gators, but that little like people don't
It's so good.
understand what it's like to have a coach over you that lords your entire future. And they are freaking nuts. These football coaches, they're good,
It's
but they're not sane people. they're hard way. They are, but
it's
I mean it nicely. But like,
it's an
God,
emotional roller. It's an
oh,
emotional roller coaster. Not to get super deep and personal, but I grew up in not the best childhood situation,
mm,
and I came out of it okay, obviously. But considering what the childhood was like, some of those years of football, it was harder mentally and emotionally than some of the other stuff that went on. Like it seriously was, and I think that's something else you gain. Like I literally was like at the very bottom, at the very top, very bottom, very top, like a roller coaster. Like you go from being a red shirt, not playing, second year guy, still not playing, third year guy, break a bunch of records, preseason All American going into the next year, and then your season gets canceled from COVID, and then you go play and do well, and then you get benched, and then you're a bench player, and then you go start again. It's like, dude, it was insane, like just
mm,
insane. And I think some of that too, like a lot of athletes have a hard time with this, but it's how we identify ourselves, right? And I learned those last 2 years not to identify as a football player so much, but to
ooh,
identify as a competitor and identify as someone who gives relentless effort. Because you can be a competitor and you can give relentless effort in any aspect of your life, not just football. So that's where it kind of is a disadvantage to label yourself as that. Even
that's
labeling yourself as an
huge.
accountant, like I label myself as an entrepreneur that helps people and things like that.
That's huge, man. So it's funny I quit football. I came home and I was drinking and partying, and I wasn't like getting arrested. Like it was your quote unquote typical moronic
Yeah,
stuff, but walking around like I'm
me
tough
too.
guy on the block and blah blah blah. And however, I knew it wasn't who I wanted to be, and my identity was so put into I am the football player. It turned me into a caricature, and when that was gone, I didn't. I was like, I probably could have gone and walked on in one of these smaller schools and done awesome, but I felt as such a failure, so dejected, so unworthy, so incapable, so I just kind of floated. And it's weird. Part of my problem was like I never had a job through high school and stuff. Like I was always three-sport athlete, so I just didn't even know like what's a thing like professionally. What are some things I
Yeah.
could do? I love what you said that you don't identify as a football player, but as a competitor. That you're a competitor,
Yeah.
and I think it's taken me. It's just such a blessing, dude, that you're figuring that out that early. That's cool. Like that's huge because I know so many people that you think about it, whether it's your beauty, your good looks, your football, whatever you've placed your identity in. That's a fickle thing. It will go away, and if not,
It's
you're going to
very
become a
hard, and
caricature. Go
it's
ahead. Go
very
ahead.
hard. It gave me a really hard time for a lot of years. I mean, uh, my second to last year, start the first two games where We lost both of them, but it's pretty close. And then don't start another game the rest of the year. Barely got over 20 snaps, right? And
Wow.
like mentally, that was very hard for me because it was like, bro, like going into this, I was preseason All American, this and that, and it's my fault. I'm not blaming anyone else. Like I should have
Oh,
just played better, you know. And a
yep.
lot of that is self accountability, whatnot. But like, labeling yourself as that, and like because then there becomes a disconnect. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to be this good football player. It's like I don't even start. And then you shift with like, okay, like I just need to star in my role and help my team win and have a good time because I only get this for 2 more years. I'm going to have a good time with my teammates if I'm going to spend 20 hours a week here, right?
Mm, that's good.
Um, and it's also like a lot of it is like zooming out, like zoom out. Like football is this much of my life. It doesn't feel like it because I've only been alive for 22 years at the time. So it feels like this huge chunk of my life. I played for 15 years straight, but in the grand scheme of things, it's that much. So it's like, okay, zoom out. Okay, I'm upset about chasing around this little leather thing on this little grass field and like tackling people and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's
it's
great,
it's
dude.
fine. Like I'm gonna still have everything I want in life, and everything happens for you. Nothing happens to you. So I needed to go through that to learn those lessons for sure.
Now, I want to probe a little bit. I think there's
Sure.
probably someone that will hear this that could have had a similar situation of your childhood. I don't know what that is. I don't. You share whatever appropriate amount, but if you were to summarize just a little bit of some of what was hard, and then some of what brought hope or clarity to get you through that. I mean, is there anything that? And it's genuinely, I would not count you down or anything if you didn't want to even talk about it or touch on it, but knowing that there's young people out there that have no idea that there's folks that go through things similar to whatever you went through. I think you go through these things, and if you can find the strength to share them, it can be powerful and whatnot. But are there things that were particularly hard that you would share with somebody, and then what was it that brought hope through that?
Through my childhood and through my teenage years, I can't quite articulate it. And I don't want to sound self-absorbed or anything, but I've always known that I'd make it. Even as a 5-year-old, like I remember being in kindergarten, just being like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do what they did. Like
It's
I'm going
called
to have
hope.
something different."
That's awesome.
And I think having people think you need to have these great role models showing you what to do. I think role models showing you exactly what not to do is just as powerful, and that's what I had in a lot of aspects. So most of my strategy through school, 0 to 18 years old, was do the exact opposite of what
Mm-hmm.
those people did. Um, and then positioning myself around people that are who I want to be like, which a lot of those were basketball and football coaches.
That's cool,
So
man.
that is what helped there. And then when I was 18 years old, 2017, that January going into 2018, and I turned 19 that March, that January was my end of my first year of college football. Very, very difficult. Stuff with my first girlfriend did not work out very badly, very
Mm-hmm.
difficult. Not living at home. Like that was one of those moments where it was like, okay, shit seems to be
Yep.
breaking a little bit. And
Yep.
I had a mentor, still my great mentor today. He's a real estate developer and he does a lot of really good work. I went asking because I was a business admin major at the time. And what's funny enough is this was a basketball coach that had kicked me off of his basketball team.
Ah.
And when I was 16, and I went back to him because we were driving to California and he's talking about rich dad, poor dad, and credit cards and this and that. And I was the only one kind of halfway listening. Turn 18 a few years later, and I give him a text. I'm like, hey, what was the book you were talking about? And he didn't want to deal with me, so he passed me off to his business partner. And I'm still really great friends with them today. They're still great mentors, but um, he gave me a book. He gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I read, and then he gave me the Success Principles by Jack Canfield,
Hmm.
which is an amazing book, and I still consider that to be kind of like my little Bible. And
Yeah.
I'm just barely starting to get into the religion stuff, so not to make people upset by calling it a Bible, but
Yeah.
that was like that put a lot of the stuff that I felt in my adolescence and in high school into words for me, and that's what kind of really sparked like the self improvement journey and just like the idea that whether you love or hate where you're at in your life, that's 100% your fault. And it's
Mm.
nobody else's fault. And
Mm-hmm.
like you have to come to that realization before you can ever improve. And some people never do it and they go their whole lives never doing it. And it's really sad. But if
Yeah.
you can do that and take the full responsibility and full accountability for your life and your situation, Your happiness and fulfillment. I've changed the word to fulfillment more than happiness, but it's
Mhm.
100% your responsibility. It's not your spouse's. It's not your parents.
Yeah,
It's your
absolutely.
responsibility to find that and pursue it. So that book has so many good nuggets. Just, E plus R equals O, event plus response equals outcome. And we only have control over the response. So if you want a different outcome, you have to have a different response. I didn't want the same outcome as some of the people in my family and in my life. And I say that like they're doing well now, but just when I
Yeah.
was younger,
Hmm.
um, I wanted a different outcome, so I chose a different response. I
Response.
tried in school and I did sports and I was able to get my school paid for, thankfully, super blessed. Not a lot of people get that chance. So I'm
Yeah.
aware of, you know, the
Paid
how
for. I
rare.
bet if we did the
So
hours
yeah,
though, you see that's the humble way to say it. I'm totally opposite. I think you probably got underpaid. They probably owed you another 30 grand a year. I'm pretty cynical of it. E plus
there's
R
plenty of
equals
hours.
O. I love
Yeah.
that. That's
And that's
good.
a
So,
Urban Meyer thing, if I'm not mistaken.
yep.
Like the event, the game is going to happen no matter what. We're going to play that football game. Our response is, hey, what did we do throughout the week? How did we eat? How did we sleep? How did we lift? How did we practice? And you live with what the outcome is. But if you want to change the outcome, you have to do it something else. So
Yep.
if you're doing something over and over and over and over again and you're not getting clients, you need to change that shit up. Do
Yep.
something
Yep.
else.
You
If
know,
you want clients. It goes into everything.
one last little like personal thing too. I struggled deeply with my first love too when that ended and come to find out it didn't
Sure.
work. And for anybody listening out there, I just sometimes I think that young people start acting like grown-ups and you take on grown-up style commitment, activity, things. And I don't think people fully understand just how the gravity behind things. It's always funny when you watch Cops or you watch Karens or you watch fails on how people will act like absolute maniacs when there's a relationship problem or when they're behind the wheel. But but relationship problems are hard. And so if anybody's hearing that, man, I
Yeah.
always just think just make sure that you pump the brakes. There's hope after that. Like it could feel so deeply. And I think there's a lot of bad advice out there. There's a lot of people that'll tell you like, oh, just screw them, whatever. It's like, I love how your response. So if that event comes, what can you own and take ownership of is your response, dude. I think what you're sharing is really freaking wise. I think that's
Yeah,
huge.
there's no sense in being grudgeful. Like, yeah, I could blame her up and down about how it went all bad, but it was like, do I really want my memory of that to be that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
my memory is like it was my senior year of high school, my first year of college. Had a lot of fun and good memories, and she's
Yep.
married now. I'm about to be married to someone else, to my fiance, that she's freaking awesome here in August.
Yep.
Like,
Well,
it doesn't
congrats.
serve us to. Thank you. It doesn't serve us to live in the
Bitterness.
negative about it. We
Yeah,
were super
bitter.
young.
Bitterness is a poisonous root, man. It will get you, and yeah, that's wise. Well, cool. Well, so tell me about the future here. So you're getting married, but tell me what
Yeah.
you're hoping your business looks like. So maybe this quick summary. So you've been at it for 4 years. It's 2024. You started
So
2019, 2020.
my first LLC was incorporated November 2021.
Cool. And what
So
are you
just
guys
past
trying to
2 years.
build? Talk to me what you're trying to build. I'm going to pull up stacks here. You guys got some cool stuff. Tell us what you're trying to
Yeah.
build and tell us what people should know about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so our vision is the Ferrari of accounting firms. So we kind of feel like, there's the people that make a little bit of money and they just need a tax repair at the end of the year and that's all they need.
Yep.
And then you have these companies that are 10, 20, 30 million plus, and they go to those top 10 firms, the Grant and Thornton, the KPMG, they go to those huge firms. But there's this huge segment of the market between like 300K revenue to 10 million that is just incredibly underserved. And our vision is to be the Ferrari of accounting firms for business owners in that segment of the market. And more specifically, the online business owners. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you were a contractor and you're making a ton of money and you really needed some help, we'd probably hear you out. We wouldn't say no, probably, at least not yet. But our bread and butter, we love the marketing agencies, we love the content agencies, the high ticket coaches, the course plus community type businesses. That's bread and butter. Lead gen agencies, um, automation services agencies, anything like that, we will knock that out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really, we try to have something that's all inclusive. So, we do all the bookkeeping, we do a ton of automation. We're very forward thinking. We're trying to decimate those dinosaur accounting firms. Sorry if you're one of those watching this, but we're trying to destroy you.
I love it.
So very tech friendly. All of our people are in Slack. All of our clients, we talk in Slack. We use Loom. We use all the tech. But it's all inclusive service. We want to do all your bookkeeping, and then we do these visual financial reports, these CFO level reports that are very customizable. We do custom KPI tracking, revenue, profitability, all the good stuff. Very custom and tailored. So you get CFO in your pocket, all the bookkeeping. We can automate all your payroll and handle all of that, and then we have your tax returns at the end of the year. And the person that does that, he is our strategic partner for the tax side of things, and he worked for Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Deloitte in their like ultra wealthy family units. So his whole job was tax planning and reducing taxes for the ultra wealthy. You used to have to be 15 million just to book a call with him. So that's the guy that does tax for us. He's amazing. So you're going to get the best tax return. It's all in house. And honestly, part of our proposition is that we're young and cool. And if you have to hop on a call with us, it's not going to be boring and dry, and we're not going to not take you seriously because you're 19 or 20.
Yep. Yep.
Because some of our clients are 19 years old, 20 years old, making $100K a month, and it's insane, but it's out there.
That's cool.
So that's kind of us right now, looking to grow it like crazy. I mean, we have huge plans for 2024. I mean, we honestly think we could 5 or 6x in 2024. Maybe that's unrealistic, but even if we shoot for it and we land on 3x or 2x, we'll be stoked. So,
well, and you're doing the proactive tax planning, making sure nobody overpays in taxes. You're making sure that the bookkeeping and accounting is on point. And people don't understand this. You think that there's going to be less scrutiny on businesses right now. I don't know why you put the word based in screech, but I'll tell you what right now, there is a class of folks that are voting bureaucrats to come breathe down they hate the word 1099. They hate everything about the entrepreneur world. Like, they don't talk about this, but if you think it's going to be less important for you to have pristine financials, you're wrong. You need to have, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, perfect financials going forward, and you can't make stupid mistakes because they're coming for you guys. Like, I cannot have, if you don't have an awesome, like, book a call with these guys, get them doing your bookkeeping, accounting, and then you guys do the fundamentals too, right? Like, I'll just share a little bit of it. If you're not maximizing an S Corp, you're failing. Your S Corp is huge, and getting it right. Yeah. If you're not starting to
just to stop you right there. A ton of what we do is optimizing S Corp salary. That's a ton of what our tax planning is, because there's a lot of people that are S Corps that are way overpaying themselves, and there's some people that are S Corps that aren't paying themselves at all. So right off the bat, S selection and S Corp salary optimization is multiple thousands worth of savings every time.
And then you've talked to me about, like, okay, if you have kids that are minors, up to the standard deduction, by golly, if they actually work for you, get them working for you. That means that's $11,000 out of your 20 to 50% tax bracket out into theirs is zero. So hiring your kids, using retirement plans. If you don't have any statutory employees, these guys will get you pointed in the direction for simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, solo 401ks. Like, that's huge. That's 20, 30, 40, 50,000, up to $52,000 a year shifted out of your business, and get that in an S&P 500 index fund. I've heard you talk about real estate investments. How do you buy a duplex, work in the duplex, rent out one side, your office rents the other side, you depreciate and cost segregation that side, you carry over losses, have your spouse be a real estate professional so you can carry any of those losses over. There's so much these guys will do for you. I've heard them talk about it. I know that they're in that land. Besides, what do you do when you're sitting there looking at your bank account? You got $400,000 sitting in it, or even just 100. You just going to take it on the chin, or are you going to invest into the future and do the right strategic planning? And that might be that you fund. A lot of guys, like, it's really good right now. I think a lot of digital folks should be thinking this is a little bit like playing sports. Like, you got the cash flow now, be wise with it, be shrewd with it for the next 10 years, because we don't know what the next 20 years looks like, right? So these guys will help you be smart with your money so that you have wealth for the long haul. And I'm just telling you, if you don't have that, you have to. You have to, because we're marked.
Yeah.
Like, look at what they're doing in California, dude. You can't even drive Uber and like get a 10. Like you just wait. These
No,
people are
it's
expanding.
getting crazy.
That's why everybody's in
It's
Tampa.
just having the expert in your pocket, having the expert in your pocket, someone that's on your side, not the IRS's side. Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of tax preparers out there that all they're looking to do is make your tax return compliant. They're not looking to
Yep.
put you in the best tax position possible legally,
Yep.
right? So we're on your side, we're on your team. We're really fractional. You're fractional accounting CFO department, and so that CFO work includes acquisition and exit help too. We've helped a few people exit their businesses. We've helped a few people acquire stuff. So that's what we're doing. And we're recording this on the last day of our launch offer, but just something special that we're doing, like to celebrate our partnership. If you were to sign on with our monthly CFO services, and I'll give it to like December 31st. If you're watching this, it actually ends today on the 15th. But if you sign on for those monthly services, we'll do your 2023 business return for free, your 2023 personal return for free, your 2023 bookkeeping catch up, cleanup, optimization for free, and we'll do quarterly tax planning through 2024 for free. So if
That's
you're
awesome.
watching this and you're interested in that and you want to book a call, as long as it's before the end of the year and you say you watched Rob, you found us from Rob, we'll hook you up.
And if it's 2027, you should still call Dylan because I trust you, man. You're doing a good job. A lot of just to recap, I love a lot of the principles that you showed, and no matter what, I know that you're worthy of trust. Now, have I like spent a ton of time with you in real life? No, but we've spent a lot of hours visiting, and I trust you, man. And I think if anybody's listening to, you gotta find folks that you can trust and that will pursue your best interest. If anybody's listening to this, you know what I hear? I hear somebody that's got a chip on his shoulder saying, let me add value. Not let me get your billing. This isn't just about his offer. This is let me maximize your tax efficiency. Let me make your books fantastic. And whenever you find somebody with a chip on your shoulder trying to deliver absolute awesome value to you, that's what you should be looking for in a service provider. He cares and he's going to take good care of you. So anyways, head to Stax, STAXX.live. Dylan's got sledgeaccounting.com too, just so you know that that's there. He's Screech the Based Accountant, DYLN Hendrickson.com. Check out in YouTube. We'll have it in the description. But Dylan, absolutely honored to interview you here. This is fun. Thanks. I learned a lot. This is good.
Dude, this was awesome. I appreciate you having me on. Like, I don't know if I'd be doing what I'd be doing if I never came across your YouTube channel. So, owe you a ton
That's
of
cool.
thanks for sure.
That's encouraging to me. Take care. God bless. We'll talk to you later.